Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I will continue bringing you an emotional video about the story of Hoai and Hung, a love built from sincerity, forgiveness, and the healing of once deep wounds. Du is the biological father of little Tony, the child Hoai raised and cared for alone through years of loneliness and hardship. After completing his sentence and returning from the mistakes of his past, Du still carried the image of Hoai in his heart. He once hoped for a chance to make amends and start over. However, when he saw that Hoai had finally found true happiness with Hung, an honest and gentle police officer who loved Tony as his own son, Du could only smile quietly. He understood that some forms of love are not meant to be held on to. Sometimes, love is letting go and having enough compassion to offer blessings instead. So instead of trying to return, Du stepped back and silently helped them whenever they faced difficulties, as a way to redeem himself, and perhaps to save his own soul. Many years passed, and the man who once lost his way truly changed. He worked hard, helped others, and lived a more peaceful, honest life. Then, far from his hometown, he happened to meet a kind and gentle young woman. After spending time getting to know each other, they realized they were meant to bring comfort and healing into each other's lives. Du decided to take a step forward, to get married and begin a new chapter of his journey. Stay with me throughout today's video to follow the touching developments of this story. That morning, sunlight fell softly like silk across the small backyard. The early light spread gently over the roof and the dew-covered grass, creating a strangely warm and peaceful scene. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of fresh earth, wood, and the familiar fragrance of a home filled with a child's laughter. Hung and Hoai were sitting side by side, carefully repairing the old wooden cage of the family's small animals. Each worn plank was removed and replaced with a new one, the rhythmic sound of the hammer blending with the breeze passing through the leaves, like a gentle melody of a quiet, simple life. Hung bent down, his strong hands holding a wooden board in place while Hoai passed him nails and small tools one by one. Their eyes met from time to time, revealing the quiet understanding of two people who had long shared a life together, familiar with mornings as warm and peaceful as this. Nearby, little Tony sat small and snug on a soft mat, hugging his stuffed bear, now slightly worn on one ear from being chewed during his teething days. His round eyes followed every careful movement of the adults. Whenever Hung shifted his posture or Hoai reached for another tool, Tony wiggled his body and pointed his tiny hands as if wanting to help, then let out soft, breathy giggles. The innocent sound made the whole morning feel even brighter. Holding a few nails, Hoai glanced at Hung with a hint of concern in her voice. "Do you think that side might loosen again? I thought I heard a faint sound." Hung looked up, sweat beading on his forehead, but his smile remained gentle like the morning sun. "It's all right, I'll finish it. You should take Tony into the shade soon, the sun will get stronger." Hoai turned to Tony. The baby was still hugging his bear, kicking his little feet against the mat, his small mouth curved into a silent call meant only for his mother. The sight was simple, yet it held all the warmth and fullness of a true home. Just as the two continued working, a sound approached from the front gate, the low hum of a car engine slowing down before turning off. It was not loud, but in the quiet morning, it stood out enough that all three paused for a moment. Hung lifted his head, his brows tightening slightly out of instinct, the instinct of a police officer always aware of his surroundings. "That's strange, who would come at this hour?" Tony immediately reacted to the sound. He quickly crawled toward the low wooden fence of the backyard, gripping the horizontal bar with his tiny hands, lifting himself slightly as he peered toward the gate. His wide, dark eyes shone with pure curiosity, the curiosity of a child who could not yet speak but sensed every unusual change perfectly. A breeze passed by, making the metal gate tremble softly. Then, The gates slowly opened with a faint creaking sound, as if signaling the arrival of something unexpected. A visitor unannounced, carrying a story none of them yet knew. The person who stepped into the yard was Du, dressed in simple, clean clothes, the look of someone who had grown used to living independently and working hard. But what caught the eye even more was the warm smile on his face, a gentle smile that Hoai had rarely seen in the past, yet now carried the calmness of someone who had truly changed. Walking beside him was Tieu, a petite young woman with a slender figure and bright, friendly eyes. She entered with polite, gentle movements, though there was a hint of shyness, the kind that appears when meeting a family important to the man she loved. Hoai froze for a brief moment. Not out of shock, but because their presence brought a strange mixture of familiarity and unfamiliarity. She looked at Du, the man who had once been a painful part of her past, now standing before her with a calm and matured expression. Tony, however, reacted completely differently. The moment he saw Du, his eyes lit up. His tiny hands reached out eagerly, his little body leaning forward as if wanting to leap straight into his father's arms. Du immediately bent down, gently lifting the child. The warmth of Tony's small body softened the corners of his eyes. Tony touched his father's cheek with his tiny hand, patting softly before bursting into cheerful giggles, a pure sound that erased whatever distance had once existed between them. Hoai watched, her heart tightening for just a moment. Not sadness, not regret, simply a quiet, indescribable feeling as a fragment of her past came alive right before her eyes. Beside Du, Tieu bowed politely to Hoai and hummed, her voice soft as a breeze. "I've heard so much about you from Du. I'm happy to finally meet you in person." Her sincere smile eased the awkwardness almost instantly. Hum returned the greeting with a polite nod, and Hoai offered a gentle, cordial smile that carried no trace of distance. All three of them could sense the lingering hesitation, that faint tension when the past meets the present. But slowly, the sincerity in Tieu's tone and the calm steadiness in Du's demeanor warmed the air around them. They stood there beneath the soft morning sun, as if this unexpected meeting was an important step in the healing journey each of them had walked in their own way. Du smiled gently, a smile no longer burdened by the sharpness or weariness of the past. It carried sincerity, release, and the quiet relief of someone who had finally found peace after years of losing his way. He turned to Hung, his eyes steady, his voice warm and honest, so honest that even the air around them seemed to slow. "Because of you, Hoai and Tony can live peacefully now. I truly owe you more than I can say." It was not just gratitude. It was acknowledgement, an admission that there were things he could not do, and someone else had done them with kindness. It was also a gesture of passing on, as if Du was placing both his trust and his past into the hands of the man standing before him. Hung listened without avoiding, without formality. He simply nodded slowly, his expression calm. What matters most is that Tony has two people who love him. That alone is the greatest blessing. The words were soft, yet strong enough to dissolve the invisible distance between two men whose history had once been far from simple. In that moment, they were no longer standing at opposite ends of old memories, but side by side, for the sake of a child. Nearby, Tieu gently knelt down, her dress fluttering lightly in the breeze. She reached out to smooth a few strands of Tony's hair, the gesture so tender it felt like it could melt the morning sunlight itself. Tony looked at her with wide, dark eyes filled with the pure curiosity of a child who could not speak yet instinctively recognized gentle hearts. At first, he only watched her. But then, perhaps drawn by the warmth of her hand or the softness in her gaze, Tony leaned his head against her palm, as if he had known her forever. The moment unfolded naturally. Simple. Yet so beautiful that laughter rose softly across the small yard. Hoai brought a hand to her mouth, her eyes curving into a smile. Tony seems to like my already. Tieu blushed instantly, her shy smile coloring her cheeks a soft pink. But behind the shyness was genuine happiness, the joy of being accepted by a child's pure heart. Du watched the scene, warmth blooming in his chest in a way he had never expected. And Hung, though silent, had a softened gaze, a quiet certainty that things were finally settling into the right place. On that gentle morning, with sunlight, soft wind, and Tony's bright laughter, each of them realized something simple. Sometimes, healing arrives in moments exactly like this. When everyone had settled around the small wooden table in the garden where sunlight filtered through the leaves and created shimmering patterns on the surface, Du finally spoke. It seemed he had been waiting for this moment since he entered the gate, but only when the atmosphere had truly warmed did he dare to say it. Tieu and I had a small wedding. He paused for a moment, as if making sure everyone heard him clearly. Having all of you there made me very happy. It was a kind of happiness I had not felt in many years. His voice was not loud, but the sincerity in every word kept anyone from interrupting. Hoai smiled, a soft and peaceful smile, as if she had just witnessed an important door in someone's life close in the right way. You deserve a new happiness. She spoke slowly, each word falling gently. At that moment, Tony, who was sitting on Du's lap, began playing with the ring on his finger. It was the same ring Tony had carried down the aisle on the wedding day, with his tiny hands trembling from nervousness. The memory returned to Du, the little boy walking slowly, wide-eyed, holding the shining ring. Thinking of it warmed his chest. Tony still could not speak, but he touched the ring and let out a small laugh as if he remembered the joy of that day in his own way. Hung watched the scene for a long moment before placing a hand on Du's shoulder, a gesture filled with trust and the quiet understanding between two men who had once stood in very different places in Hoai's life. Congratulations, Hung said in a steady tone. Then he added a line so sincere that Du paused for a second. And thank you for always thinking of Tony. It was not praise. It was acknowledgement, respect. Du lowered his head slightly and nodded, his eyes reflecting a sense of relief that only those who have lived through storms can understand. Under the sunlight streaming through the leaves, his face seemed to brighten not because of the sun, but because he had finally stepped into a new chapter with a peaceful heart. The afternoon settled slowly, as if the sun itself wanted to linger a little longer in this peaceful place. The last light of the day turned into a warm honey color, coating the small garden behind the house with a gentle golden glow. Each leaf seemed outlined with light, swaying softly in the breeze and casting delicate shadows on the ground. The air carried the scent of grass, earth, and a faint hint of smoke from the pot of soup simmering in the kitchen. Everyone gathered around the simple meal placed on the old wooden table, the table that had witnessed countless ordinary yet precious moments of this small family. There were only a few dishes: freshly boiled greens, a plate of braised meat glistening with caramel sauce, and a steaming bowl of hot soup. Nothing elaborate, yet the air was filled with laughter, ease, and warmth, making the meal more special than any lavish feast. Tony, as always, drew all the attention. He lay comfortably in Tieu's arms, his head resting against her chest, his tiny hand gripping a corner of her shirt as if he had found the softest place in the world. Whenever the adult spoke, his little feet kicked playfully, and his small hands tapped the table in rhythm with the laughter around him. And every time someone called his name, Tony burst into laughter, bright and clear like little bells ringing through the late afternoon. Tieu looked at him with infinite tenderness. Her fingers gently brushed his hair, sometimes leaning down to press a soft kiss on his forehead. Each touch made Tony giggle and tighten his arms around her a little more. Watching them, Hoai paused for a few seconds. She leaned back in her chair, her gaze quietly following her son, who was content in someone else's embrace, not with sadness or loss, but with deep gratitude. From the days when she struggled alone, being both mother and father, protecting her child through countless hardships, to this moment now when Tony was surrounded by love and care, her heart felt light as drifting clouds. A rare ease settled in her, as if a burden she had carried for years was slowly melting away with the setting sun. The clinking of chopsticks, the breeze passing through the leaves, and the distant calls of birds blended together into a simple but breathtaking harmony, the kind of beauty found only in ordinary moments where no one tries to create happiness, yet everyone feels it. As the meal neared its end, the laughter gradually softened. No one spoke for a few seconds, and the gentle silence made the moment even more precious. Hung, sensing the calm beside him, leaned slightly toward Hoai. Under the table, he reached out and held her hand, the small hand he had held tightly through many storms. His hand was large, warm, and steady. The soft touch made Hoai lift her eyes and meet his gaze, a gaze no longer heavy or uncertain as in the beginning, but clear and tender enough to melt her heart. With a low, gentle, and sincere voice, Hung whispered, "Our family is truly complete now." A simple sentence, yet it carried the weight of everything they had endured. The tears, the fears, the unfinished pieces, and the patience that had brought them to this day. Hoai looked at him for a long moment, as if wanting to hold on to this instant forever. In her eyes shone deep gratitude, a relief she once thought she would never feel, and a happiness greater than words could express. Then she smiled, a soft smile like the evening sunlight. The smile of a woman who had finally stepped out of the shadows of her life. Because she understood that this sense of completeness did not come only from the love between her and Hung, but also from her forgiveness of the past, the growth born from pain, and the kindness they had all given to one another. At that moment, an evening breeze drifted through the window, rustling the leaves and carrying with it a sense of peace so gentle that it made the entire afternoon glow once more. As the evening light faded completely behind the trees, the entire garden was softened by the tranquil glow of dusk. The small family meal ended with laughter, peaceful looks exchanged around the table, and a warmth that spread gently through the air, like a quiet but perfect punctuation mark for a meaningful day. Hoai looked around. Tony was fast asleep in Tieu Mai's arms, Hung was cleaning up the dishes, and Du stood silently nearby, watching the little family with a smile that was soft and hard to describe. In that moment, she felt more deeply than ever that true happiness came from the simplest things, and from choosing love over resentment, forgiveness over clinging to old wounds. An old chapter had finally closed, and a new one, full of hope, was beginning for all of them. At the end of the video, the narrator's voice rose gently. Today's story comes to a pause here. But their journey is far from over. In the next episode, we will witness the wedding of Du and Tieu Mai, a special and meaningful day marking a turning point in the life of a man who once lost his way but learned to stand up and find himself again. Make sure to follow the series so you do not miss those touching moments.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đang làm video tiếp theo về câu chuyện của Hoai ca. Mình bây giờ sẽ chọn một tấm ảnh để làm thumbnail cho mọi người. Mọi người rất là nhiều vì đã xem video. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo. Bye bye mọi người nha. Mình sẽ tắt máy đây.